I'd like to thank everyone for being on the call this afternoon. So good afternoon to everyone. On the city side, I'm going to go ahead on and request that we have a few moments for silent prayer. So let us pause for a few moments of silent prayer. Thank you and amen. At this time, will Chief Armstrong, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes, sir, I will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief Armstrong. Next, will the city clerk perform the roll call for the city side? And then I will turn it over to you, President Gray, for your roll call and, of course, calling the board to order, Board of Supervisors. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Alderwoman Mathis. Here. Alderman Frazier.
Here.
Alderwoman Smith. Here. Alderwoman Irving. Here. Alderman Davis.
Here.
Alderman Dillard.
Here.
Mr. Latham.
Here.
We're all present counted for mayor.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to President of the Adams County Board of Supervisors, Ricky Gray, to call the county board to order and to get a roll call. Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I would like to call the Board of Supervisors to order in roll call. Wes Middleton.
Here.
Kevin Wilson. Angela Hutchins.
Present.
Warren Gaines. Here. Randy Lewis.
Present.
Scott Slover.
Present.
And Joe Murray.
Present.
And I'm present. Turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Ricky, did the sheriff announce himself?
Who?
The sheriff.
No, he didn't.
We need a deputy then, or a sheriff, the sheriff. I'm trying to get him on the call.
Okay. Do we need to wait, Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let us put our phones on mute. We need to wait until a representative from the Sheriff's Department get on the call in order to make it official for the county side. Please mute your phones. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, are you still there, Mr. President?
I'm here, yes.
If the record would reflect, I've got Buddy Frank, Deputy Buddy Frank, listening into this meeting.
Okay. Is it possible uh, for him to acknowledge himself, just to say something?
Buddy, please say that you're here.
I'm here.
Okay. Supervisor Gray, is everything okay at this point?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So thank you. So both boards have been called to order at this time. And the basis for this meeting is for both boards to have a discussion on reinstating a stay-in-place order as it relates to requiring mandatory mask or face covering for Natchez Adams County. So what I would like to do is preface this by having Norma Williams. She and her husband, Bill Williams, have dedicated themselves for the past several months in collecting the data in order to provide metrics for Natchez Adams County to let everyone know where we are as it relates to this COVID-19 pandemic. So at this time, Norma Williams, will you give all board members and all present on this call an update on where we are as it relates to the metrics of the pandemic of COVID-19? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Board of Aldermen, Supervisors, and others. Appreciate your time. As the Mayor mentioned, we'll be presenting the confirmed cases and deaths using the workbook that we shared with a good bit of you at 11 o'clock this morning. I apologize, I missed some of you, so I'll follow up after the meeting and send it to you guys. Dustin, could you please go to the summary report, which is one worksheet over from what you're seeing? And I realize not all of you are able to see what Dustin has on the terminal, but on the PC. So I'm going to read some of the information to you. Looking at just the past 7 days, June 25th through July 1st, Adams County has had 33 new COVID cases, bringing our total up to 267. So unfortunately, that's a 12.4% increase in cases. Thankfully, we haven't had any new deaths, so we're holding at 18 new deaths, although that makes our fatality rate almost 7% at 6.74%. Okay. Do y'all want me to address anything on Concordia Parish or just focus on Mississippi and Adams County?
Just focus on Adams County, Norma.
Okay.
Mississippi, Adams County. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. All right. Now keep in mind that 12.4% increase that we just saw in the past 7 days, that's already increased from what we had sent out to all of you guys dated June 29th, where we just had an we had an 8.3%. So you can see we keep going up, unfortunately. Okay. Now keep in mind, over a week ago, it was even less than that of an increase, but unfortunately we're going in the wrong direction. Now looking at the state of Mississippi, in the past 7 days, we've had 4,479 new cases, bringing our total up to 27,900, which is a 16% increase. They've had some new deaths, and the death increase is 6.5%, with their fatality rate being almost 4%. Okay. Keep in mind, the numbers that I've just rattled off to you guys do not include what was sent out by the Mississippi Department of Health yesterday. Those numbers we will be getting today. Unfortunately, our data dump is delayed on the USA Facts end of things, okay? But we've had an additional 3 positive cases yesterday in Adams County. That's okay. Dustin, would you please go to the multi-county parish Grafts worksheet, which is a few pages over. Okay. All right. What Bill was able to add so that we can get things on an apple-to-apple basis, since the counties and states have different populations, it kind of skews the results. He was able to add a per capita graphing to this, and that's what you're seeing now. Unfortunately, Claiborne has a large increase, even though, but Adams County is also tracking upward on that per capita basis. And then we also have below there the various hourly increases. And we can look at it by just the past month if you want to, or, you know, since the beginning around March 15th, either way. And so now, Dustin, does anybody have any questions on the county stuff before we go over to the state?
Any questions for Norma at this time? Hearing none, proceed, Norma.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I did.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Irving.
I just wanted her to repeat that again. It was about the seniors. I think she was giving information on the seniors.
I'm sorry,
or
what
elderly.
was Ms. Irving?
It was information pertaining to the seniors. I thought I heard you say it was a uptake or increase with the seniors.
I apologize. I don't have the detail by seniors. So what I might
Okay.
probably said, what you're seeing here is upticks for all the counties and parishes in our area. That's
Okay.
yeah. Sorry about
right.
that.
That's okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so if you're looking at the state stuff, okay, and I can describe it to those of you that are calling in, that's going to be one worksheet over, please, Dustin. Okay. There we go. Okay, what I want to describe to you guys, okay, y'all are all familiar with the per capita basis. That gets us on an apple-to-apple basis. What we did is we looked at it per 10,000 of population, okay? And looking at Mississippi, well, unfortunately, Louisiana is the highest, okay? And then right underneath Louisiana is Arizona, which just ticked up. And just below Arizona is Mississippi, guys, which is kind of scary to me. And then you can see a U.S. state total that's in a light turquoise color. Okay, but we also have our other neighboring states. You're hearing a lot of buzz on TV about Florida and Texas. Well, if they were looking at things on a per capita basis, they'd probably be knocking on our door here in Mississippi and Louisiana. So, because our per capita does not look good at all. Okay. In particular, if you look at Arizona, they were tracking along below Mississippi. Okay. And then all of a sudden, something must have happened and they just took off like a rocket. So I don't know if there was a super spreader events or what, but I'm just afraid that not only in Mississippi, but also in our local area here in Adams County, we might just be one super spreader away from looking like Arizona. And you've heard about how their hospitals are struggling, et cetera. I apologize for those of you that might not be able to see these graphs right now, but when you do see them, you'll see what I'm talking about. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Are there any questions? Hearing none, proceed, Norma.
Okay. Looking at it on a per capita numerical basis, Adams County is 87 people per 10,000 is our per capita rate. Okay. Mississippi is 94 people per 10,000. Okay. Just to give you an idea. Okay. If y'all have any questions, that kind of concludes my report unless you've got any questions for me.
Are there any questions for Norma? Hearing none, Norma, I personally want to thank you on behalf of the city and the county, you and Bill, say thanks to both of you guys because, you know, I don't know if all the board members know this, but Norma and Bill, they're doing this on a volunteer basis of collecting this data in order to provide us with the metrics, and they take out time from their personal lives in order to plug all of this information into Grafts and to help to interpret the data so that we can be proactive and reactive here in Natchez Adams County. So Norma, again, thank you on behalf of both boards to you and Bill for all that you do for this community as it relates to this pandemic. And as all board members can see, we've got a rapid incline that's going on here in Adams County. And that's the basis of why Mr. Robert Bradford, who is our emergency management director, had a call meeting on yesterday in order for us to convene today to take action in order to put some things in place to protect our citizens here in Natchez Adams County. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the Director of Emergency Management, Mr. Robert Bradford. Good afternoon, Mr. Bradford.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
We hear you. Proceed.
Okay. The caveat what Ms. Norman say, those great graphics and stuff like that. But the purpose of this meeting is because we track it at a lower level as for by locations inside of Adams County. And what we noticed, we've seen a trend upwards, spiking our cases in a lot of areas to include our low-income housing areas, apartment complexes, and areas throughout the city. We've got multiple hits on those areas, so those are some areas of concern. So that's why I asked the Board of Aldermen and the Board of Supervisors to meet yesterday to try to mandate to help curb some of these spike in our numbers, because we know they did a reopening and a lot of people has got complacent, and we can see that across the state and across this country, that people are trying to get back into normalcy too soon. So with that being said, we look at our total number of active cases that we have at one time within our county based on our population, and we've exceeded the highest we normally got at one time, with numbers coming off was right at 22 or 23. Right now we're at almost 45 numbers at one time, and that's a big deal. That's an eye opener that we need to do something to help curb the spread of this COVID-19 here in the county. I know a lot of times we look at the hospital that they may not have people out there on life support, but we don't base that off that, because this virus can change at a moment's notice. You can go from no symptoms to symptoms in less than 2 or 3 days, and then that would actually flood our capacity at our hospital. We do have plans in place for that, but we don't want to activate that. So right now, that's why I'm asking this board, both boards, let us be proactive in putting out ordinances, things that we can help mitigate and prevent the further spread of mass projects. So we issue out mass to the community. Excuse me. And my thought on that, if we're going to issue out masks, we got to make sure people are wearing them, because if we're not going to have things in place to try to help protect people, I see no sense in just giving out masks if people are not wearing them. So I asked this board, both boards today, to consider from a safety standpoint and from a point on the emergency management side, that we don't want to get into our secondary emergency management plans to help us curb the spread of this COVID-19. That's all I have, Mayor. Pending any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bradford. And let me just make one correction that Mr. Bradford stated, because I want to just make sure that it's understood by the press. The Board of Supervisors, nor did the Mayor Board of Aldermen have a meeting on yesterday. There were just a couple of representatives from each board that were part of the emergency management call on yesterday. So there were no quorums of any board on the call on yesterday. So I just want to make sure that that's understood. Today is the day where both boards have convened. So we actually have a quorum of the Board of Supervisors and a quorum of the Mayor Board of Aldermen here today. It is based on yesterday's meeting. We had a brainstorming session and discussion about this inclination, as Mr. Bradford mentioned. And we are truly concerned about our citizens in Natchez Adams County. And it is my recommendation to the Board of Aldermen that we put a policy in place where there is a mandatory order from the city of Natchez for the citizens to wear a mask or some type of face covering when they go into any type of retail or any type of place where there are gatherings of people. And I'm going to, at this time, turn it over to the president of the Adams County Board of Supervisors for his recommendation to his board as relate. And then at this point, we'll turn it over to the attorneys in order to make sure that we get the language correct for the adoption of the policy. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like the mayor said in the meeting we had yesterday with Mr. Bradford and the board of members of the Board of Alderman and members from the mayor and the Board of Alderman, we came to that conclusion. But I mentioned yesterday that I got a call from a family member, not my family, but a member of this community where it's 7 or 6 of the people in their family has been affected by the coronavirus. And like the mayor said, this is real serious and we are going in the wrong direction. So we came to the conclusion that we would try to do what's best for the citizens of Natchez and Adams County, and that's making sure that they wear face coverings, stay 6 feet apart, and continue to sanitize and wash their hands. And that is what's best for this community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. So the request to both boards here today is to adopt a policy mandating that the citizens of our community wear a mask or some type of face covering when they are going into environments where there are groups of people. So at this time, in order for us to have the proper language for the policies, I'm going to turn it over to the city attorney, Attorney Latham, and he can also allow County Board Attorney Scott Slover to chime in. Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, I drafted a what I'm still calling a stay-at-home order. It's
Mr. City Attorney Nathan.
Order as a base order now.
Oh, hey, Bob.
So it's not.
Hey, Bob. We can't. You're breaking up. Am I correct, Dustin?
As far as
Yes,
restricted people on a city basis, it's strictly.
City Attorney Latham.
Can y'all hear me?
No, we cannot hear you. No.
Has everybody got their phone on mute?
I've requested for everyone to put their phones on mute. I'm not sure if that's the problem. It's his signal. Bob, did you click in or did you dial in?
Hello?
Bob, can you hear me?
He logged in on his computer. You need to call in.
He needs to call in. Hey, Dustin, get him to call in, please.
Yes, sir.
Everyone put your phones on mute. Bob is going to have to call in. That way because he's having reception trouble
Can you hear me
at
now?
his location. Bob, did you call in?
Yeah, you're breaking up, City Attorney. I just sent you the code. If you could call in for us.
Okay, be patient, everyone. Let's give him a few minutes to call in.
Mayor, this is Chief Armstrong.
Yes, Chief.
Hey, I was going to want to ask the question, perhaps toward the attorneys, if we can include.
Well, hold up, Chief, because we got to get Bob back on this call. So he has a dial in, okay? He had logged in on his computer, and he has a reception issue. So he's going to have to call in. So if you'll hold off on any questions until he can get back on this call.
Okay.
Hey, Dustin, were you able to reach him and have him to call in?
I texted him the information, but I haven't talked to him.
Okay, Bob, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
So
All right.
I don't know how much you heard. I just stated
Right.
that,
You need to start from the beginning.
okay. So I prepared a draft of a resolution. It's still called a stay-at-home order. Emphasize particularly or requested to stay at home. Right now we're strictly under the governor's his last executive order. So basically the only thing that we're doing under this stay-at-home order is putting this mandate to wear either a mask or some type of face covering that's outlined within the scope of this resolution. And it designates, the areas and the circumstances under which people will be required to wear these masks and face coverings. Actually, I think Chesney had sent me the text from the Jackson, Mississippi order that they had passed, and it gives a little detail. I think it would probably make it easier to know, for people to know when they need to wear a face covering and when they don't. Just to say you need to indoors and sometimes outdoors is very confusing. So I think there's enough detail in this particular these provisions that will help citizens understand that. And if the board passes it, I think the detail needs to get out to the public so they can see the various circumstances where they'll be required to wear this face covering and the areas that they don't need to wear. And then within the resolution, there's some enforcement provisions. In our discussion yesterday, we talked about some kind of nominal fines. So I included in here that if someone violates the order, if they're a citizen, it'll be $50 for each violation. If it's a business, it'll be $100 violation. Also included in here that if businesses issue more than 3 violations, that they may be subject to the termination of their privilege license to a business in the city of Natchez. At such time that they hit that level, they will be cited to appeal before the mayor and board of aldermen to show why they shouldn't have their privilege license canceled or withdrawn by the city. So that's kind of basically what the resolution sets forth.
Okay. Are there any questions from the city side to what is the resolution that Bob has crafted?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Dillett.
yeah, as I read this, it all speaks about the city. Is there a like resolution that'll be passed by the Board of Supervisors or be offered?
That is correct. I think there might be some slight deviations. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Slover so that he can talk about the resolution from the county side. Mr. Slover.
Yeah, so Bob and I have a very asimilar resolution. There are certain provisions that only apply to the city and reference the city. The county, the proposed resolution that we would enact would be basically replacing the city with the county, and would be having more or less the same recommendation that everyone be home safe, and 2, everyone socially distance, and 3, everyone wear a face mask. Face mask and social distancing being ordered by the Board of Supervisors, and it would be actually a misdemeanor if the sheriffs catch you not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And so it's basically I'd say it's not identical, but it's just very, very similar in almost every way, except for things that are just not applicable to the county, or were applicable to the county and not to the city, that were added to it. The idea behind this is that we have consistency in the city and the county, that both leaving the city limits should not change you or create any more additional restrictions or rights or whatever, that we're on the same page.
Okay, did that answer your question, Mr. Dillard?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Latham, I heard you chime in.
I was just going to say the main difference between the city and the county resolution would be that the county doesn't issue previous licenses for businesses inside the city, so they don't have the ability to pull their license if they're not going to comply. So I think that's basically maybe the only real significant difference in these two resolutions. Okay. But I think everything else should be the same. Like that says, it needs to be consistent throughout the city and the county. Everybody ought to understand what's going to happen to them if they're cited for violation of basically the mask and things covering order.
Okay, Bob, are you talking through a speakerphone, or is it up to your face? Because we're having a little trouble hearing you a little bit.
I'll try to can you hear me better now?
Yes, sir, a lot better.
Okay. I just had it sitting on the table. Do you need me to take what I said?
Yeah, please.
Basically, what I was saying was that the city has the authority to pull privilege licenses from businesses that are not willing to comply with our order, whereas the county doesn't have that authority. And I think the major difference in the city resolution versus the county resolution is that particular difference. And for the rest of the resolution, and Scott and I will make sure before we send them out that they're aligned together, so citizens that travel, whether in the city or the county, they'll understand what the penalties are if they're violating the order.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Ms. Mathis.
At what point are you, for the city side, willing to accept a motion to accept the resolution as provided by Attorney Bob Latham for the city of Natchez?
I am open to accepting a motion. I was just trying to make sure that there were no questions prior to, but I am willing to accept a motion on behalf of the city side. Yes, ma'am.
I make that motion.
May I have a question, please?
And then we can still discuss it. Okay.
I have a question.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead on and take Sarah's question, and then I'll entertain your motion. Go ahead, Ms. Smith.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering if was there any consideration of possibly thinking a benchmark of when it could end? I know some cities said when their active cases went down to 20, then it would automatically end a mandatory face mask.
Well, I think in this resolution, if my memory serves me correct, Ms. Smith, I think it will expire on the 31st when when you guys go and revisit and look at the numbers. Am I correct, Bob?
You are correct, and we got a meeting on the 14th, so if numbers drop significantly between now and the 14th, if this order also provides you can be rescinded and withdrawn at any point.
Okay, does that answer your question, Ms. Smith?
Okay, that does. And one thing that I do want to mention, I know this is going to be, a lot of people will be happy about this, and as many people will be frustrated by this. But one of the things, certainly to keep people safer and to keep our cases down is one motivation. But there is an economic motivation too that I've seen, I've read about as well, and especially for small businesses, when you do have an employee that comes down with it, you have to shut down. I mean, it also hopefully can help us economically as well, because that is an issue. And I've seen it happen to a business in a nearby town that had to shut down for a week because of an employee, and there was nothing else they could do until they tested negative. So anyway, that is one thing to consider when the people started getting angry about it. But hopefully we can keep our numbers down and we can get this done as quickly as possibly to get the mask thing over the requirement. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. All right, Ms. Mathis, I will entertain that motion now.
Mr. Mayor, one more question.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Dillard.
This being a joint resolution, so I would assume that to rescind, revise, or amend this resolution would also require a joint declaration or a joint position. Am I correct?
I don't think so. I think they're two separate resolutions. We're just doing them at the same time because there are slight deviations in the language of the resolutions. I might be wrong on that, but City Attorney or Mr. Slover, will you correct me if I'm wrong?
Right. We set this up to be just a joint meeting. We're not having a joint resolution. We're trying to track the same language so it'll be consistent across the city and the county. But the city's resolution is independent of the county. The city can withdraw its resolution at any time, and the county can keep theirs going.
Okay, so basically what Bob said, because his reception is not really clear, we set up a joint meeting today, but the resolutions are separate, but they're consistent, except for those little minor deviations, because the city of Natchez, we have the power to issue privilege licenses to businesses, whereas the county doesn't, provide privilege licenses. So, Mr. Dillard, to answer your questions, there are two separate resolutions. But we are working in harmony, the city and the county, because, it just makes good sense to do it this way. Does that answer your question? Okay. Who is this?
It's Chief.
Go ahead, Chief.
Hey, I was wondering if we could include in the language, particularly at these big stores like Walmart and shopping centers and grocery stores, that they would have someone outside the store at the entrance to let people know that they have to have a mask before they can go inside. And what would happen if you could do that, it'd be a lot easier dealing with those individuals on the outside versus them getting inside, contaminating the person that might be inside, and then cut down on the confusion if you could stop them before that. But you would have your mask, maybe some giveaway masks if they didn't bring one with them. But if you can stop them at the door, much like you see at the medical facilities, you're not going to be able to get in the hospital or any of these facilities without a mask, and they catch you at the door. So just a thought.
Yeah, and Chief, that's a very good suggestion. But I was just brainstorming here on how do we identify those businesses that will be required to do that? Is it based on size? Is it? I'm just wondering, how do you label those particular businesses to do it? Because a little small mom and pop can't afford to hire an additional person to be out there monitoring somebody that comes in. So that's my only question about it.
Yes, I thought about that, but I've seen so many times where a person get inside and start shopping or whatever they're doing, and then someone approach them and ask them about leaving. It just create a huge problem whenever that happens. But yes,
right.
I do understand.
I agree with you. Yes, President Gray.
I don't know if the stores are willing to do this, but I went to a couple stores and I've seen something say no mask, no service. And sometimes people get out their car and they see that sign, then they turn around and go back to their car and get their mask. I'm just saying maybe something on the outside of the stores where they can see it, maybe that'll work.
Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor.
and that was going to be my suggestion, President Gray, is that that both boards issue an order where they must post a sign on the storefront that says, you know, it is mandated or required that a mask be worn or some type of face covering when you come in to this particular facility or store. That was going to be my suggestion.
Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor,
Yes. Who is this?
this is Bob.
Bob. I can hear you good now. Okay.
All right. So this ordinance under number 2
Mhm.
it says face coverings, commercial entities and establishments. It's got the first unnumbered paragraph under that. It says such commercial entities, establishments, and facilities listed in this paragraph must post the face covering requirements stated in the stay-at-home order in a conspicuous location sufficient to provide notice to employees and visitors. So it's got a mandate for them to have a notice on the outside of the store so people will know when they're coming in, both for the employees and visitors as well. And I've been to a number of stores, and they've got a big sign out front that says, "Do not enter the store without a face covering." And most people that I've seen, when they see that big sign, you know, they abide by it. But if there's not a sign, they won't. So I think, we need to kind of spearhead a movement to let everybody know they need to go ahead and get these large signs, because if they're big enough and easy to see, then it like the chief was saying, it cuts down on a lot of issues with people walking in without one and saying, "Well, I didn't know it," or "I couldn't read the print on the notice." So I think it would be good. It's in the order. We just need to make sure all these businesses know they need to have that sign. It doesn't matter how big they are or how small they are. They need to have that sign sitting out there outside their front door.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Yes, Ms. Mathis.
Under Natchez Inc., small businesses, they have a safe to shop label. They have put out some, situations, benchmarks, or requirements, or whatever you want to call them. And this ought to be included within what Natchez Inc. Is doing for businesses, so that they can get that safe to shop. I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. I can't pull it up on the computer right now, but there's a safe to shop emblem that you put on front of your building, and then this is all included in there. And then they post this also. I think that information will get out through the chamber and through Natchez Inc. to all the businesses, and
Yes,
Natchez
ma'am.
specifically to all the businesses. I think it's what I've read it. I said it and I read the whole thing that Bob wrote, and if there was going to be an amendment section, see where it would need to be, but I think it's covered in there.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'll entertain that motion now.
Okay, well, I'm ready now to move the resolution that Mr. Latham has submitted to us concerning the coronavirus and the addition of the face mask policy.
Okay, there's a motion to adopt the resolution, and it's been seconded by, is that Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Second by Alderman Davis. Unreadiness on the motion. Hearing none. Alderwoman Mathis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Smith, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Irving, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
vote
how do
aye.
you vote? Yes, ma'am. Mr. Davis, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Dillard, how do you vote?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, it's unanimous. The Board of Aldermen has adopted the resolution. At this time, Mr. President Gray, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, like we were talking, we had a meeting with the Emergency Management Director, Bradford, and the EOC yesterday, and we came up with a resolution, and Scott was a part of it, Joe was a part of it, and I think Angela was a part of it, that we adopt a resolution to require our citizens to wear some kind of face protection for their protection. Scott, do you want to go over anything in the resolution before I ask for a motion for us to adopt it?
Yeah, again, this is doing a heavy recommendation or a strong recommendation that people be home safe. They don't go out unless they need to, and then they're mandated to wear a face mask when you are out in public and to socially distance yourselves. And that's more or less what it is. There are certain exceptions that you wouldn't be surprised about, for health and safety of people and so forth. And there's other little exceptions here and there, whatever. It's really just people be reasonable about wearing the mask, and let's get the infection rate back down to a normal rate, so or it's a rate that we can deal with. If y'all have any specific questions, I certainly can answer them for you.
Okay, you heard the recommendation that we adopt this resolution. Could I get a motion that we adopt this resolution?
Well, Mr. President, this is Angela. Before we adopt the resolution, I just want to make sure that we're adopting a resolution and that we ourselves abide by this resolution, because I know that we sometimes ourselves don't even wear the face mask. So before adopting this resolution, I want to make sure that we abide by it ourselves. We can throw this out there and practice it, but we need to practice it ourselves.
And Angela, you're right on my end. I've been wearing a mask since we had that meeting, and I've been really bad at it in the past. So I'm definitely going to adhere to it.
Okay, can I get a motion that we adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Second. I got a motion by Supervisor Hutchins. Who seconded?
Wilson.
I got a second by Supervisor Gaines. Any discussion? How you vote, Supervisor Milton?
Aye.
How you vote, Supervisor Wilson?
Aye.
How you vote, Supervisor Hutchins?
Aye.
How you vote, Supervisor Gaines? Aye. I vote aye. Motion carried unanimously. Turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. And Ms. Hutchins is correct. We as leaders in this community, and that not just go for elected officials, that goes for all appointed officials, that we all, department directors, etc., all need to make sure that we serve as role models, that we wear our masks, and we make sure that our employees in the various departments wear the mask. Chief Armstrong, I'm going to be charging you and your department to disseminate the order to all businesses throughout the city of Natchez of this mandate that requires employees, employers, and patrons to wear masks or face coverings. Chief?
Yes, sir. We'll get her done. When would it be available? Monday or before?
It will probably be before. As soon as I can get it drawn up, I'll get it to your department.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Mayor Grinnell?
Yes. Ms. DeRay, we actually, this is a special call meeting, and everything has to be on the agenda for a special call. Is this germane to the order that has just been adopted, the resolution?
Absolutely. As the organizer for the fireworks over the mighty Mississippi, I wanted to make sure that our website could reflect any decisions that were made today. Do you believe that this will be in effect by the time of the fireworks show so that we can share that information as well?
It is in effect immediately, effective immediately upon adoption. Am I correct, City Attorney?
Yeah, it's been adopted and it's in effect.
It is in effect. So you need to get the word out, Alderwoman Doré. Sabrina Doré is Alderwoman for the city of Adelia, who is one of the organizers of the fireworks show. So please get that out. Thank you so much.
Hi, Scott Hawkins, and I'm wondering
Scott?
quickly. Yeah. How quickly can I get copies of this ordinance so that we can post that and people know exactly what it says?
We can get it to you as soon as we hang up from this call.
Great, thanks.
Okay, Bob, will you get that to Scott for me, please?
Yes, I will.
Okay, great.
Please get it to John Coffey too.
And also to John McCoffey.
Thank you.
All right, it'll be.
Okay. Say that again, Bob.
Well, I'm not sure.
Okay. If you get it to Pam, she can get it out to them. Pam, are you on this call?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You'll take care of that for me?
Yes, sir, I will.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Thank you.
It'll be unsigned unless you want to sign it and then scan it back and let it go out.
Yeah, I can sign it. I mean, whatever you need me to do.
Well, I would recommend. I'm gonna go ahead and enter the votes on this draft that I had, so we can finalize it, and I'll email it to you. You can print it and sign it and email it to Pam.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Bob.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing else germane to this,
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Before we go, I just would like to. I think the sheriff did call into the meeting. Sheriff, are you there?
Yes, I'm on here. I'm on here.
Okay, we gonna. Excuse me.
Ricky, I got him in at 12:20, so he's on the minutes, or he will be.
Okay, the sheriff is a part of this meeting. I just want to say that, Sheriff, once we get this resolution in place, could you get your some of your deputies to get it out to the businesses in the county?
President Gray, that won't be a problem at all. We'll definitely get it out once the paperwork is done up and signed. We'll administer it wherever it needs to be sent to.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor, do you need me to go on and close our portion of the meeting out now?
Yes, sir. You go ahead on and close yours out, and then I'll call for my vote on this side. Go ahead, Mr. President.
Could I get a motion that we recess till Monday?
So moved.
Second.
Monday the 6th. I got a motion by Supervisor Gaines, second by Supervisor Hutchins. How do you vote, Supervisor Middleton?
Aye.
How do you vote, Supervisor Wilson?
Aye.
How do you vote, Supervisor Hutchins?
Aye.
How do you vote, Supervisor Gaines?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn for the Mayor Board of Aldermen.
So moved.
So moved. All right, it's been moved by Alderwoman Smith, second by Alderman Davis. It's not debatable. Therefore, I'll call for the vote. Ms. Mathis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Irving? Ms. Irving? Ms. Irving?
Yes. I'm here, Mayor.
How do you vote? How do you vote?
Aye. Aye.
All right, Mr. Davis?
Aye.
And Mr. Dillard?
Aye.
This meeting adjourned. Have a happy 4th of July. Please be safe. God bless you.